Tunafurahia undugu na uko wetu, na sherekea kazi na bidii yetu.
In the beginning, this land breathed freely. The skies watched over a people who knew the names of the stars, the seasons of the rivers, and the secret songs of the forests. They didn't see themselves as rulers of the earth, but as part of it. They didn't fight to own the land. They listened to it. The Ajikuyu tell of Ngai, the great god who created the first man, Gikuyu, and his wife Mumbi. Ngai placed them at the foot of Mount Kirinyaga, the mountain of brightness, and from their 9 daughters came the clans of the Kikuyu people. To the Luo, the journey began from the Nile, where their ancestor Ramogi Ajwang led the people southward, settling by the great lake that would one day be called Victoria. The Luhya speak of Misri, a far-off place across the river of life, where their forefathers emerged, bringing with them iron, music, and memory. Each community, Masai, Kamba, Taita, Pokomo, Mijikenda, Turkana, Samburu, and many more, had their own beginning, their own center of the world. They were not fragments. They were stars in a vast sky, each shining with its own light. There was no Kenya yet, but there was civilization. Along the coast, the Swahili people built stone towns with coral walls and arched doorways, blending African roots with Arab, Persian, and Indian influences. Lamu, Malindi, and Mombasa were not just fishing villages. They were city-states trading gold, ivory, slaves, spices, and ideas. Long before Europe knew of these shores, dhows were already sailing across the Indian Ocean, linking East Africa to Asia. Calligraphy, architecture, and Islam flourished. The people wrote poetry in Kiswahili using Arabic script. They built tombs and mosques, told stories of ancestors who spoke with jinn, and carved out a coastal civilization with elegance and strength. Then came the winds of change. In 1498, a Portuguese sailor named Vasco da Gama docked at Mombasa. It was the beginning of a new age, of ships, guns, and foreign gods. The Portuguese stayed for nearly 2 centuries, fighting for control of the coast. They burned towns, built forts, and tried to reshape the coast in their image. But the Swahili resisted. With the help of the Omanis, they drove the Portuguese out in 1698. Yet even with the Portuguese gone, freedom didn't last. The coast soon fell under the rule of the Sultan of Oman. Arab slave traders raided the interior, bringing pain and broken families to many tribes. Meanwhile, Christian missionaries and European explorers followed rivers inland, carrying crosses, books, and imperial maps. In Europe, something bigger was happening. In 1884, powerful men gathered in Berlin to divide Africa among themselves. No African was invited. No African voice was heard. It was there, in a room far from this land, that Kenya was born, on paper. The British were given control of a region they barely knew, and they soon created the Imperial British East Africa Company to exploit it. They laid railroads not for the people, but for their own profits. The famous Lunatic Express Railway, stretching from Mombasa to Kisumu, became the backbone of British conquest. Thousands of Indian laborers were brought in to build it. Many died, but some stayed and made Kenya home. By 1895, Britain declared a protectorate, and by 1920, the colony of Kenya was officially born. But it was a birth soaked in theft and silence. Land was taken, names were erased, African chiefs were removed or co-opted. Whole communities were pushed into reserves while white settlers claimed the most fertile lands for themselves. African cultures were branded as backward. Spiritual shrines were burned. Children were forced to forget their languages and worship foreign gods in mission schools. Yet even in the shadows of domination, the people remembered. They remembered who they were. They remembered the stories their grandparents whispered by the fire. They remembered the trees, the rivers, the drums, and the ancestors who refused to kneel. And that memory became resistance. This was our beginning.
I am a foreteller. I am a foreteller. I walk with the echoes of 9 kings' names. Footsteps carved into memory flames. Luanda rose with a bone like steel. Truth in his chest, silence to kill. Ogallo dreamt of blood and